All right, good afternoon. We're on the record in the trial for Nano versus Bober. Counsel for plaintiff, please state your appearance.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Megan Zukowski for plaintiff Lonnie Fornero.
And counsel for defense, please state your appearance.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Caleb Johnston for defendant Ashley Bober.
All right, thank you. Ms. Zukowski, I'm sorry, you have your client as present? Or, oh, there you are. Hi, good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
And Ms. Zukowski, you have your witness too?
Yes, my witness is also present, treating physician, Ms. Jennifer Jones.
Hi, good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
All right, Mr. Johnson, you have your client as present as well?
Yes, she is, Your Honor.
Oh, there you are. Hi, good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Judge.
And and your witness is here too?
Yes, it's Dr. Susan Smith.
Excellent. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Judge.
All right, and we've selected our jury from the questionnaires, and our jurors are present. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for returning. At this time, I have some matters I have to address with the attorneys, so I'm going to send you to our virtual jury room, which is a breakout room. And our bailiff is present, Mr. Garcia, if you could escort them to the breakout room.
Sure, Your Honor.
Thank you.
All the jurors have left.
All right, thank you. We have our clerk / court reporter who's present.
Yes, sir. Yes, Your Honor.
All right. All right. So before we start trial, I just wanted to go over a few things with counsel. We've selected the jury based on questionnaires from the court, and the attorneys, you're also able to submit questions that were, and the ones that were approved by the court. Is that correct, Ms. Zukowski?
Yes, it is, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Johnson?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. And you've agreed to participate in this trial via Zoom. Is that right? You and your clients, Ms. Zukowski?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. So since this is a virtual trial, virtual courtroom, we're going to make sure that we conduct ourselves accordingly and based on the rules of professionalism that we've all adhered to, and you all are both professionals, and the court appreciates that. But I just want to remind you of a few things. One person speaks at a time. It's important that we do that at all times, but here especially for our court reporter, and also to make sure that no one is speaking over each other since this is virtual. Also, it's important that we speak clearly and slowly enough so that it gives everyone a chance to finish and complete their sentence. And then it gives opposing counsel to make any objections if necessary. And it also gives the witness an opportunity to hear the question in its entirety and then answer the question. And of course, we'll wait for the witnesses to finish their answers before we resume, before you ask your next question. And your witnesses are here. And Ms. Zukowski, and Mr. Johnson, Mr. Zukowski first, do you want the rule of sequestration invoked?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Johnson?
No, Your Honor, not at this time.
All right. But I will ask the witnesses to mute their lines, which I think they're already doing. And if you'd like, you can go off a video at this time. Now, evidence. Have you all had a chance to exchange evidence and go over evidence between the two of yourselves?
Yes,
Yes,
Your
Your
Honor.
Honor.
Opposing counsel and I have agreed to the documents that are going to be submitted at trial.
All right. And so you've agreed upon their introduction into evidence?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Yes, Your Honor.
And those have been, And those have been presented to our clerk.
Yes, Your Honor. I have marked Plaintiffs Exhibit number 1, a photograph, and Defense Exhibits 1 and 2, and they are X-rays.
Excellent. And the court provide a copy as well via CMS. So the court will be able to look at those, and our clerk slash court reporter has them as well. When you want to publish evidence, just ask the court to publish, and the court will allow that and allow you to share your screen. That way the witnesses will be able to observe what you're looking at, and the entire courtroom can look at what you're looking at as well. Again, it's important if you're referring to exhibits to make sure that you do so on the record. So please state that you're looking and showing exhibit 1 or exhibit 2, so on and so forth for the record. Witnesses, I think I've already mentioned that. Witnesses, please mute your lines when you're not on the stand. Attorneys, you do not have to do so in the event that you have to make an objection. And sidebars, I'm gonna, yes, address this with you. We wanna keep sidebars to a minimum. So please, if you have an objection, just state your objection and the grounds. No speaking objections, just objections, for instance, hearsay, and that's it. No speaking objections. If we need to, we can have a sidebar, but that means that we have to ask the juries or ask the jury to go to the break room, which takes up more time. So we're going to try and eliminate that or reduce that as much as possible. But in the event we need to do so, that's how the court will conduct sidebar conferences. All right, and at the end of the trial, again, we will ask the jury to go to their virtual jury room, which is a breakout room where the jury will deliberate, and our bailiff will then, and our clerk will be notified via text with the foreperson, from the foreperson or from the jury once they finish deliberating. All right, are there any questions, Mr. Sukowski?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Johnson?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Ready to bring in the jury?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Garcia.
Right away, sir.
Thank you.
The jurors are back in the courtroom.
All right, thank you. And welcome back. Members of the jury, we are ready to start our trial. And thank you for your time and attention. And during the course of this trial, the plaintiff goes first with the presentation of evidence and with opening statements. So at this time, the plaintiff, Ms. Sukowski, would you like to make an opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
You're welcome.
May it please the court, counsel, and members of the jury. This accident occurred before we ever heard the word COVID-19. On a warm, sunny day on September 10th, 2019. My client, Ms. Fornero, a loving mother and wife, was completely stopped at a red light driving to pick up her 3 young children at school when she was slammed from behind by the defendant. She was hit so hard that she felt like she lost consciousness and she felt paralyzed. She was suffering from excruciating pain in her neck and back and a stabbing headache, but she had to leave the scene because she was very worried about picking up her 3 young children from school. She continued to struggle with the pain until it became so unbearable that she sought treatment. She went to see Dr. Jones, a wonderful doctor that provided her with continuous physical therapy, but she still suffers with neck and back pain. She can no longer pick up her children. She struggles to put little Sammy in his car seat, and then her pain worsens. She can no longer play with her children like she used to, and they don't understand what happened to their mommy they knew the morning of September 10th, 2019, before the accident. It has changed her life. Simple things are now difficult. Members of the jury, the evidence is going to show that Ms. Fornero has continued to suffer each and every day and will continue to suffer for the rest of her life. You will hear the testimony of Dr. Jones, who continues to treat Ms. Fornero, and you will hear that Ms. Fornero has sustained a permanent injury with reasonable degree of medical probability. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Defense, would you like to make opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon. May
All
it
right.
please the court, counsel, members of the jury. During this trial, your job is to determine the following issues. First, who was the negligent party? Or in other words, who was at fault for the motor vehicle accident? And second, did the plaintiff sustain a permanent injury or damages as a result of the motor vehicle accident? Not just any injury, but a permanent injury within a reasonable degree of medical probability. The plaintiff has the burden of proving each of these issues. The evidence will show that my client, Mrs. Ashley Bover, was not negligent. She was driving slowly down the road when the plaintiff slammed on her brakes at a yellow light without any warning. My client, in turn, was forced to hit her brakes immediately, but due to the plaintiff's abrupt stop, Mrs. Bover was unable to stop in time. The evidence will show that Ms. Bover did everything a reasonably careful and prudent driver should and could do to avoid tapping the plaintiff's rear bumper. The judge will instruct you on the law regarding damages, but the plaintiff has the burden of proving that she sustained a permanent injury within a reasonable degree of medical probability. Again, the injury must be a permanent injury, or your verdict should be in favor of my client, Ms. Bover. When considering whether the plaintiff sustained a permanent injury, let's look at what the evidence is going to show. First, the plaintiff drove away on her own from the scene, and her car was in fact drivable. Second, the plaintiff did not receive medical treatment at the scene or in an emergency room, or even the following day or the day after that. The plaintiff didn't go to see her family physician. Instead, the plaintiff did not start receiving treatment until nearly a month after the accident. The evidence will further show that the plaintiff had a motor vehicle accident 2 years ago in which her car was totaled and she complained of the exact same injuries as she is today. Under the rules of court, we are entitled to have a second opinion examination concerning the physical condition of the plaintiff. Dr. Susan Smith performed that examination. You will hear her testimony, and the evidence will show that after performing the examination, reviewing all of the plaintiff's medical records, and taking x-rays of the plaintiff, the Dr. Smith's expert opinion is that the plaintiff has not sustained a permanent injury. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Kowski, would you like to call your first witness?
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, I would like to call Ms. Lonnie Fornero.
All right, Ms. Fornero, if you could please, if you could please raise your right hand. You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, ma'am?
I do.
Thank you. Please state and spell your last name for us.
My name is Lonnie Fornero. My last name is spelled Fornaro.
Thank you. Mr. Kowski, your witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Fornero. Were you involved in a car crash on September 10th, 2019?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, I would like to publish Plaintiffs Exhibit 1.
That is already in evidence, members of the jury, so you will have an opportunity to review that during your deliberations. But you may also look at this and maybe present it to aid the witness during the course of her testimony. And Mr. Kowski, you may publish.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Welcome.
Judge, can you please
Yes,
give me access?
yes, ma'am. I just did, and hopefully you'll be able to do so at this time.
Yes, it works. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
Does everybody see the photo on my screen?
Not yet.
Not yet.
All right. You may proceed, ma'am.
Thank you, Your Honor. For the
Well-
record, I am showing Plaintiffs Exhibit 1. Ms. Finero, do you see the photograph on your screen?
Yes, I do.
Does this photo look familiar?
Yes, it's a photograph that I took the day of the accident after it happened.
And this is the accident that occurred on September 10th, 2019, correct?
Correct. That's my car in the front and Miss Bober's car in the back, the one who hit me.
Okay, thank you. Your Honor, I'm done showing this photo. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
All right, thank you. All right, thank you. You may proceed, ma'am.
Thank you, Your Honor. Where were you going at the time of the crash, Ms. Finero?
I was on my way to pick up my 3 young children from school. We had plans to go home and FaceTime Grandma and Grandpa right after.
And what happened next?
I approached a red light. I came to a complete stop, and then out of nowhere, I was slammed from the back, from behind, by another car.
And what happened to you when the car crashed into you?
I was jarred so viciously that I momentarily lost consciousness. I felt paralyzed, like I couldn't move, and every single bone in my body hurt.
Did an ambulance come to the scene?
No, I was so worried to get to my 3 children. I didn't want them to be scared waiting for me that, no, an ambulance didn't come. I didn't go to the ER.
And did you start to feel better?
No, after the accident, I kept feeling worse and worse. So then I decided to ask a friend who recommended Dr. Jones, and I saw Dr. Jones.
And when did you first see Dr. Jones?
A couple of weeks after the accident.
Did you have pain from the accident?
Yes, I had a lot of pain in my neck and in my back. I had spasms. I can't pick up my youngest son, Sammy, anymore. I can't put him in the car seat.
And do you still have this pain as a result of the accident?
Yes, I have constant pain in my neck and in my back. It doesn't go away at all. I can't exercise. I can't do yoga. It's constantly there. Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Finero. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, ma'am. Cross?
Yes, Your Honor, just a few. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
At the time of the accident, you were driving a 2017 4-door Volvo, isn't that correct?
Yes.
And at the time of the impact from the accident, were you wearing a seatbelt?
Yes.
And your car, the 2017 Volvo that was drivable from the scene, in fact, it was drivable enough that you were able to continue on and pick up your children from school, correct?
Well, yes, I had to pick them up. I didn't want them to be scared.
And you received no medical treatment at the scene, correct?
That's correct.
And you didn't go to the ER, not even later in that day after you'd picked up your children?
That's correct.
In fact, you did not go for any type of treatment concerning this motor vehicle accident until nearly a month after the accident. Isn't that correct?
Well, yes, because I thought it would get better and I was waiting for it to get better, but it got worse.
Did you have a motor vehicle accident 2 years ago with injuries to your neck and spine?
Yes, I had an accident, but I got better afterward.
And in that motor vehicle accident, you also treated with a chiropractor for your neck and back injuries and complained of not being able to pick up your children and your inability to exercise, correct?
Yes, but I got better after that.
Okay, so just to clarify, you had the same complaints regarding injuries to your neck and back, and that you couldn't exercise and pick up your children, but those injuries and complaints miraculously went away before this accident?
Objection, Your Honor. Argumentative, asked and answered.
Sustained.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any redirect, ma'am?
No, Your Honor, I have no further questions.
All right, thank you, ma'am. I'll call your next witness.
Yes, Your Honor. At this time, I would like to call Dr. Jennifer Jones.
All right, Dr. Jones. All right, excellent. Could you please raise your right hand for me? Thank you. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. State and spell your last name for us.
My name is Dr. Jennifer Jones. My last name is spelled Jones.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Dr. Jones.
Good afternoon.
Could you please tell us your professional qualifications, including your education, training, and work experience?
I went to undergraduate school at the University of Miami, where I received my Bachelor of Arts. And from there, I went to chiropractic school in Georgia and received a Doctor of Chiropractic Medicine in 1999. I've been treating patients ever since, and I have my own practice in Plantation.
Are you licensed in Florida?
Yes, since 1999.
And when did Ms. Fornero first come in for treatment?
October 1st, 2019.
Did you take a history?
Yes, I did.
And did she have any complaints of pain?
Yes, she complained that she had pain in her neck and back following a motor vehicle accident that she had on September 10th, 2019.
And did you perform an examination?
Yes, I did a complete examination, and she had a limited range of motion and spasms in both her neck and in her back.
What type of treatment did you prescribe?
She received physical therapy, hot and cold packs, and also massage.
And how long did you continue to treat Ms. Fornero?
I last saw her on January 10th, 2020.
When you last saw her, was Ms. Fornero still having pain?
Yes.
And did you perform an examination on that visit?
Yes, she still had some limited range of motion in her neck, and she also had pain on palpation in both her neck and her back.
And do you have an opinion within a reasonable degree of medical probability as to whether Ms. Fornero sustained a permanent injury as a result of her motor vehicle accident of September 10th, 2019?
I do. Yes, she did. She sustained a 10% disability to her neck and her back as a result of the motor vehicle accident on September 10th, 2019.
Thank you, Dr. Jones. No further questions.
Hey, counsel. Mr. Johnson, any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Dr. Jones.
Good afternoon.
Is this the first motor vehicle accident that you have treated Mrs. Fornero for?
No.
2 years ago, did you treat Mrs. Fornero for the same complaints of pain in the neck and back as a result of a separate motor vehicle accident?
Yes.
And your opinion after that prior motor vehicle accident was that she had sustained a permanent injury to her neck and back, correct?
Yes.
And the first visit that you had with Mrs. Fornero after this accident, which occurred on September 10th, 2019, was on October 1st, 2019, which is approximately a month after the accident, correct?
Correct.
And the last time you saw Ms. Fornero as a patient was on January 10th, 2020, correct?
Yes.
And at that time, although Mrs. Fornero was complaining of pain, on your examination, there was no spasm and essentially a full range of motion.
Yes.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. Any redirect, Ms. Sipkowski?
No, Your Honor, no redirect. And at this time, the plaintiff rests.
Thank you. Members of the jury, we're going to have to address a couple matters with the attorneys. And so we're going to take a recess at this time. I'm going to ask you to step out to the breakout room. Mr. Garcia.
Hey, Your Honor.
All right. Any motions at this time? Mr.
No, Your
Johnson?
Honor.
Ms. Sukowski?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Johnson, you ready to call your witnesses and present your case?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
All right, excellent. So
All
we'll,
right, and Your Honor, if you could just give me 1 minute, I need to change the paper in my machine.
all right, just let
Thank
us know
you.
when you're ready. Oh,
Thank you. I'm ready.
that was quick. All right, Mr. Garcia, you can bring the jury back in.
Okay, Your Honor. The jurors are back.
All right, thank you. Welcome back, members of the jury. At this time, the defense now has an opportunity to present her case. Mr. Johnson, would you like to call your first witness?
Yes, Your Honor. Defense calls Ashley Bober.
All right. Ms. Bober, if you could please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, Judge.
Thank you. State and spell your last name for us.
Last name is Bober, B-O-B-E-R.
And what's your first name?
Ashley.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Johnson, your witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Bober, can you explain to us how the accident on September 10th, 2019 happened?
Sure, I was driving slowly down Federal Highway when the car in front of me stopped abruptly, just stopped for no reason, hitting the brakes. I hit my brakes, but she stopped so fast I couldn't avoid the impact.
Okay, and what happened next?
We both got out of our cars and Miss Fernero told me she was fine. She told me she was in a rush to pick up her kids from somewhere.
Did any ambulances come to the scene?
No.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you. Cross-examination, counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Bober.
Good afternoon.
You were on your phone when you crashed into the back of my client's car, correct?
I was, but I was watching the road.
And there were no skid marks from your car, isn't that correct?
Probably not. She stopped so abruptly for no reason. I only had a second to respond and hit my brakes.
Although my client didn't want treatment because she needed to pick up her children, she did complain of pain, correct?
I don't remember hearing any complaints.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any redirect, Mr. Johnson?
I have no further questions for this witness, Your Honor.
Thank you. Would you like to call your next witness?
Yes, Your Honor. Defense would like to call Dr. Susan Smith.
All right, Dr. Smith. There you are. Thank you. If you could please raise your right hand. You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. All right, tell us your name and just spell your last name for the record.
My name is Dr. Susan Smith, last name spelled S-M-I-T-H.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson, your witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Dr. Smith.
Good afternoon.
What is your record, or what is your profession for the record?
I'm an orthopedic surgeon.
And could you please tell us your professional qualifications, including your education, training, and work experience?
Sure. I graduated from Florida State University with a BA and then went to the University of Florida for medical school and did my residency at the University of Miami-Jackson. I then went into private practice and regularly perform surgery and treat patients daily.
And are you board certified?
Yes, and licensed.
Dr. Smith, in addition to performing surgery and treating patients, do you conduct any one-time examinations such as you did in this case?
Yes, I do. It's a small percentage of my practice.
Okay, and when did you see the plaintiff, Mrs. Fornero, in this case?
I saw her January 15th, 2020.
And what did you do when you saw the plaintiff?
I took a history, reviewed all of her medical records, and performed an examination.
Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to introduce and publish Defendants Exhibits 1 and Exhibit 2 into evidence.
Yes, sir. Those defense exhibits 1 and 2 are in evidence as we discussed before, so you may You may now publish. Just identify which one you're going to publish first.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. I will now begin sharing my screen. Can everyone see Exhibit 1, which is up on my screen that's being shared with you now?
Yes, sir. You may proceed.
Okay, Dr. Smith, as part of your review of Mrs. Fornero's medical records, did you have a chance to review Defendant's Exhibit 1, which is now on the screen before you?
Yes.
And Defendant's Exhibit 1, that's plaintiff's x-ray from her motor vehicle accident that occurred 2 years ago, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I'm now going to switch to Defendant's Exhibit 2. Dr. Smith, I've now put up Defendant's Exhibit 2 on my screen, which is plaintiff's x-ray from the September 10th, 2019 motor vehicle accident. Have you had a chance to review this x-ray as well?
Yes.
Okay. And in your opinion, what does Defendant's Exhibit 2, which is the x-ray that you're now looking at, which is plaintiff's 2019 x-ray, what does that x-ray show?
It shows views of the cervical spine, which is normal degeneration consistent with the plaintiff's complaints.
Okay. And when comparing Defendant's Exhibit 2, which is on the screen right now, with Defendant's Exhibit 1, which was the x-ray from plaintiff's prior accident, what is your opinion?
They show that the injuries sustained from the motor vehicle accident 2 years ago are the same as the injuries she claims to have sustained during the September 10th, 2019 accident.
Thank you. Your Honor, at this time, I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
All right, sir.
Dr. Smith, at the conclusion of your physical examination of the plaintiff, and after reviewing all of her medical records and taking a history, do you have an opinion within a reasonable degree of medical probability of whether or not Mrs. Fornero has sustained a permanent injury?
I do have an opinion, and that opinion is that she has not sustained a permanent injury.
Why not?
The exam I performed was normal, and her medical records indicate that she has had some complaints in the past from a prior motor vehicle accident.
Thank you. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you. Cross-examination?
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Dr. Smith.
Good afternoon.
You only saw my client on one occasion, correct?
Yes.
And how many times have you testified for clients of defense counsel or his office?
I'm not really sure. A few times, I believe.
Isn't it true, doctor, that you perform these one-time evaluations making millions of dollars each year?
Well, I don't make millions of dollars. I run an office, I have employees, overhead, partners.
And doctor, would you agree that a doctor that has seen Ms. Fornero and treated her and examined her on many occasions is in a better position to opine on her injuries?
No, I wouldn't agree. I reviewed all of the medical records, took a history, and did a complete examination of Ms. Fornero, which was normal.
So you believe that seeing my client just one time and being paid millions of dollars to perform these exams, that you are in a better position?
Objection. Argumentative misstatement of the evidence.
Sustain.
I'll withdraw the question, Your Honor.
All right.
Nothing further.
Anything else for this witness, Mr. Johnston?
No, Your Honor. The defense has no further witnesses, and the defense rests at this time.
Thank you, sir. Members of the jury, the defense has rested. I have a couple matters I have to take up with the attorneys again, so I'm going to ask you to step to the breakout room. Now's an opportunity to use the restroom, enjoy the snacks that are back there, in your homes, and we will be back with you very shortly. Mr. Garcia.
Thank you, Your Honor. The jurors are gone.
All right, thank you. Mr. Johnson, do you have any matters that you'd like to take up right now?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
Ms. Sikowski?
No, Your Honor.
All right, are you ready to proceed with closing arguments?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr.
Yes,
Johnson?
Your Honor.
Thank you. All right. And I think we can bring the jurors back in.
Okay, Your Honor.
Thank you.
All the jurors are back.
All right, thank you. Members of the jury, the plaintiff and defense have rested, and now they will present their closing arguments. Again, with plaintiff first, Ms. Sikowski.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the jury, thank you for your time and consideration of this case. What happened on September 10th, 2019? My client, Ms. Finero, was minding her own business, sitting at a complete stop at a red light on her way to pick up her 3 young children when bam, the rear of her car was smashed into, jarring her so hard she felt paralyzed. The defense wants you to believe that because Ms. Finero didn't go running to the ER or to a doctor, she wasn't injured. Members of the jury, you have children and loved ones. She was worried about her children and their safety. She put herself second.
Objection, golden rule.
Members of the jury, I'm going to have to address this issue with the attorney's sidebar. Mr. Garcia, if you could please escort the jury to the breakout room.
Right away.
Thank you.
I'll set, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Johnson, you made an objection.
Yes, Your Honor. I believe defense counsel made an impermissible jury argument. Plaintiff's counsel is improperly asking members of the jury to put themselves in the plaintiff's shoes. So I'd ask that Your Honor instruct the jury to disregard counsel's statement.
Ms. Sikowski?
Your Honor, my argument is not improper, as it was not directed towards damages. Rather, it was just highlighting the fact that my client has children of which she was worried about their safety.
But you did ask the jurors to think about their children, and which would place them in and think about their children. So the court will sustain the objection, and I will give the instruction as requested, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I understand.
All right, Mr. Garcia,
Yes, Your Honor.
if you could please bring the jurors back in.
Okay. The jurors are back.
All right, thank you. Members of the jury, you are to disregard counsel's statement asking you to think about your children. You're to consider the evidence that has been introduced during the course of this trial, and only that evidence and the law that the court has presented to you. Ms. Sikowski, you may continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. You heard Ms. Finero tell you about how much pain she was in and the difficulties she was having. For goodness sakes, the defendant won't even take responsibility for causing the accident, and she was on her phone. On the phone, racing down Federal Highway on her way home. She didn't even hit her brakes until a second or less before hitting my client. And she wants you to find Ms. Finero at fault for being at a complete stop at a red light? Dr. Jones told you how severe the injuries to Ms. Finero are and that they are permanent. Ms. Finero is going to suffer this pain for the rest of her life. As for Dr. Smith, you can't believe her. She makes millions of dollars finding nothing wrong.
Objection, argumentative misstatement of the evidence.
Sustained.
Members of the jury, you heard evidence, and the evidence has shown that the defendant was at fault for causing the accident, and my client has been permanently injured and should be awarded damages for her pain and suffering, her anguish, her disability, and the loss of enjoyment of life. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Johnston, closing argument.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the jury, on behalf of my client, Ashley Bober, I want to thank you for your time and service. As I told you at the beginning of this case, there are two issues for you to decide. First, negligence. Who was at fault for the accident? Or were both Mrs. Fornero and Ms. Bober to some degree at fault? And second, did Mrs. Fornero suffer a permanent injury? You've heard the law that you are to follow in reaching your verdict in this case. When considering the testimony of any witness, you may consider the believability of that witness, the frankness or lack of frankness of that witness, the demeanor of the witness while testifying, the reasonableness of their testimony, their interest in the outcome of this case, and consider their testimony in light of all of the evidence and in light of your own experience and common sense. The plaintiff certainly has an interest in the outcome of this case. Consider the reasonableness of her testimony that she received a permanent injury, yet she did not receive treatment until nearly a month after the accident. From a common sense standpoint, consider that the plaintiff received a permanent injury from her motor vehicle accident 2 years ago, yet those injuries went away by September 10th, 2019. Plaintiff's burden of proof in this case is the greater weight of the evidence. What is that? The greater weight is the more persuasive and convincing force and effect of all of the evidence in the entire case. Have you been persuaded? Have you been convinced? The evidence says no. Dr. Smith, a board-certified orthopedic surgeon, performed a complete examination, took a history, and reviewed all of the plaintiff's medical records, and you heard her testimony. The plaintiff has not sustained a permanent injury. The evidence shows that the plaintiff stopped short at a yellow light without any warning, and that my client did everything she could do in that split second to avoid the impact. In sum, the evidence has shown not only that my client was not at fault for the September 10th, 2019 accident, and that she did everything a reasonably careful driver could do, but that plaintiff has not sustained a permanent injury. Thank you.
Thank you. Members of the jury, you've now heard all the evidence and heard all the arguments that have been presented to you, and you've also heard the law that applies to this case. Now it's your opportunity to go back and deliberate and reach a verdict in this case. Shortly, you'll retire to the breakout room to do that. And the first thing that you're going to have to do is to select a foreperson to preside over the jury deliberations. That foreperson will then be responsible for contacting the court and our bailiff to let us know when you've reached a decision. So at this time, I'm going to ask you to go back and deliberate and come back with your verdict. Mr. Garcia.
Okay, Your Honor. All the jurors are out.
Thank you. Ms. Sikowski, any matters you need to address for the court?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Johnston?
No, Your Honor.
Madam Clerk / court reporter?
Yes, Your Honor. I've just been informed that the jury does have a verdict at this time.
Okay. They're very quick and decisive. All right, Mr. Garcia.
Okay, Your Honor.
Thank you.
All the jurors are back.
All right. Members of the jury, have you selected a foreperson?
Yes, we have.
All right. Mr. Foreperson, have you been able to reach a verdict?
Yes, we have.
And what's your verdict?
It is our verdict that we can definitely do this, that in the future we can do jury trials by Zoom or other electronic means.
All right. Counsel, Mr. Baskowski, would you like the jury polled?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
Mr. Johnston?
No, Your Honor.
All right. That concludes this matter. Thank you all for your time and attention. Court is in
Thank you.
recess. We're off the record.